Hello, Lloyd, aka MegaBlitzz. In today's video, we're going to be looking at all the day 2 decks out of SAO-PAULO Regionals. Now, getting into our first place deck here, to no one's surprise, we have Tord ZARD. Now, this is a little bit different than Tord's exact 60 that kind of innovated this whole thing, but it's pretty gosh darn close, playing the 2-2 line of Pidgey and Pidgeot, and the 1-1 line for BDIF and Babero, playing the Cleffa, and things like that. Playing also a copy of Roxanne and just things. This is kind of just what Tord had innovated, and it's a little bit different than that version. However, it's close enough to call it Tord ZARD. Is playing Hero's Cape here, so making it really difficult to KO, Charizards or things like that, because putting a Hero's Cape on a Charizard makes it a 430 HP Charizard, which is really difficult to deal with, and that's a lot of HP on a Pokemon, especially something like Charizard, where it does pretty good damage for 2 energy, 180, and then it scales later the game goes on, has an ability where it just gets to jam a bunch of energies onto it. So definitely crazy. Definitely not shocked to see it Tord ZARD here at first place. I think this is what, the 4th regional in a row it has won, I believe. We can look at this real quick. Open in a new tab. Let's see. We got Singapore. That was something different. Perth was another one. So we have Sao Paulo, Perth, Orlando, and then the Philippines one as well, and EUIC on top of that. So definitely has been something where Tord ZARD has become pretty relevant, and it's definitely the best deck in format. Some people are even saying it's tier 0, which Pokemon hasn't had a tier 0 format since, I believe, Silver and Tempest, when Lugia had come out, and you could play the Aurora energies with the amazing rare Pokemon, and Stoutland V with the powerful colorless energies for the double dip fangs attack. So we haven't really had a tier 0 format in a while. I'm not too sure if this is tier 0. I'm kind of on the fence. I definitely think Tord ZARD is best deck in format. I definitely think it is tier 1, but I don't quite know if it's tier 0, only because the deck is beatable. It is, and it does lose sometimes. However, under the right pilot and with a little bit of luck, this deck can kind of just run rampant and take over everything. So anyway, moving into our second place deck here, we got Lost Paradox, or Lost Toolbox here with the Roaring Moon, the Hoopa, the Raikou, the Sableye, Mew, Iron Hands and stuff. So definitely like that. I also really like the Iron Bundle include in here as well. Not only for its Hyper Blower ability, however, but its attack, a Refrigerated Stream for 80 damage for 3 energy, says if the defending Pokemon is an evolution Pokemon, it can attack during your opponent's next turn. So if you're playing against things like Charizard or whatever, you can kind of just pull up a Charizard and trap it in the active for a little bit and just kind of punch it in 80 over and over and over again, which feels pretty good. So I definitely like it for that. I will say the energies are super greedy, but they have to be when you're playing this kind of a Lost Box deck. I mean, you have 4 dark energies split between Roaring Moon and Hoopa, 2 lightning energies split between Raikou and Iron Hands, 1 psychic energies just for the Sableye, 3 water energies split between the Radiant Greninja and the Iron Bundle as well. However, a lot of these cards you're not going to be using in every single matchup. Not, the chances you're using Roaring Moon into a Lugia deck is not very likely. You're not going to be able to Frenzy Gouging pretty much anything because Mist Energy, so you're going to be using Hoopa a lot, or Raikou, or Iron Hands, right? Those are just depending on what your matchups are, will depend on what Pokemon you're actually going to be using. But of course, things like, Sableye and Cramorant are kind of just the bread and butter of Lost Box, so those cards are pretty much going to be used almost every single time. So very cool to see Lost Box doing well here. We haven't really seen a Lost Paradox do this well in a hot bit. We got 2 more Zards here. One is different than the other. I believe this one is playing Prime Catcher, which is the only big difference. Still Tord ZARD, just playing Prime Catcher here. And then this 4th place list is basically the exact same thing as the 1st place list, playing Hero's Cape and things like that. Actually, was the 1st place list playing Mist Energy? Okay, they were. Okay, so every list is playing 1 copy of Mist Energy. We got Lost Tina here. I like this deck a lot. I also really like the include of Technical Machine De-Evolution. I feel like that's a really great card to include in Lost Tina. You can kind of use Greninja into a Gardevoir deck or something and then De-Evolution things down, or Lost Mine a bunch of stuff up, De-Evolution them down, which feels pretty good as well. The other thing I like is this deck has a pretty, not decent time, but it has a pretty okay time into Charizard. It's a little bit like 50-50, I still think, but being able to Requiem something and then have, Iron Leaves to kind of follow up with that. And if you are choosing to not play Prime Catcher and playing Maximum Belt, you can kind of just be like, okay, Impact a Charizard, Requiem a Charizard, and then Iron Leaves the other one. when I've been playing Lost Tina into Charizard, it feels like a lot of the times it's like, okay, Requiem a Charizard, and then like Impact a Pidgeot, and then Iron Leaves for the last Charizard to win the game. Sometimes it doesn't always go like that, and things obviously change, but a lot of the times it feels like how the matchup goes playing Lost Tina. So definitely not shocked to see Lost Tina here. I'm glad that it's still performing very well. Got a Gardevoir deck here, definitely showing up, showing that it's still got stuff. I mean, playing the Klefki, playing Fluttermane, and Mimikyu and Drifloon, so very similar to the list we have been seeing. I think this is going to be the kind of Gardevoir deck going forward with Technical Machine Evolution to just power up the evolutions quicker. You know, you got the one copy of Eerie, you got the Luxurious Cape, and you got Bravery Charm and Hero's Cape. Hero's Cape is definitely going to be your ace spec of choice. I don't really see you playing anything else in this deck. You really got to have that Hero's Cape for, you know, Screamtail or for the Drifloon to make it just bulkier, to put more damage counters on it, to make it do more damage. So definitely makes sense here. Not shocked to see Gardevoir doing well. I am a little shocked to see it making the top 8, though. It kind of seems like lately it's been one of those decks that just kind of keeps bubbling out of top 8, making 9th or 10th over and over and over again. So glad to see it make top 8, but I am a little shocked to see it make top 8 as well. We got Arctina here. Arceus deck finally making it in. Pretty much the bread and butter, just cookie cutter Arctina deck. You know, nothing too crazy. You got the 4-4 line here. You got a 3-3 line, 2-2, 1 Iron Leaves, the Squavit. You know, your 4 Iono, 4 Boss, 3 Judge, 1 Eerie. This is very similar to the list I've been playing. I believe the only thing that's different in my list is I don't think I'm playing Lost Vacuum. I think I cut one of those for something else. But still really close. I definitely like this a lot. I'm playing Maximum Button Mine as well, just to deal with Charizard a little bit better. But I'm definitely glad to see Arctina doing well. It's probably one of my favorite Arceus decks, so really cool to see it showing up here. And then Lugia making it into top 8 as well. His first top 8 appearance for Lugia. We got the 4-3 line for both Lugia and the Minccino. You got the 4 Archeops, of course. Double Lumineon. I've seen a lot of people have a debate between 2 Lumineon, 1 Lumineon. 2 feels good when you have to, and you don't have to start with Lumineon in the active. But the amount of times that you start with Lumineon in the active when you're playing 2, just sometimes it feels so bad. And you're just like, all right, start Lumineon, I have nothing else. And you just kind of get dunked on, and it feels really bad. But that's just one of the downsides of playing Lugia, is sometimes you get there, sometimes you don't. And it's a little bit of a high roll, high risk kind of deck. So playing the one copy of Snorlax, I've seen a lot of people also debate on taking out a Snorlax as well. I don't want to take out a Snorlax out of the Lugia list, only because it feels so good into Lost Box decks or into just an early game ZARD player or something where you can just be like, all right, put down this Snorlax, punch for 160 with a DTE and a therapeutic on there, and then roll that way. I definitely like the 2 V-Guard here. I think 2 V-Guard feels really good. Playing 3 double turbo energies also kind of makes sense. So this list here is playing what? 4, 8, 10, 12, 13, 16. So 16 energy. 16 kind of seems to be the more common one. A lot of people are also playing 17 energies. It kind of just depends on what your preference is. If you feel like you're really good at managing your special energy resources, I feel like you can get away with 16. However, if you're not the greatest at it, I would say just play 17, have that extra energy in there. It's totally fine. It's not a huge deal, cutting an energy or not cutting energy. For me, I've kind of been playing 1 Lumineon for an extra energy, just because there's a lot of times where I get a little sloppy with my management resources, and I want to be able to have that extra energy in there. So all in a preference. So very cool to see top 8. Got another Arctina here in 9th place, very similar to what we had seen in top 8. And then we got Moon Dune, or Dungeons and Dragons, or whatever you want to call this deck. This deck has shown up that it's pretty good, and it definitely is showing that it has stuff. I think it's made top 8 a couple times at this point. It still keeps putting up decent numbers. So pretty cool to see it just performing very well here. We got an Arceus deck. I'm not too sure what this one is. Okay, so this is just like, this is the Arceus control deck that people have been talking about, with the Grabbers, the Eries, and the Sharon's Care, and the Technical Machine De-Evolution, and things like that. Kind of like Arc, it's not Arc Firebox, because you're not playing the Arc Armor Rouge, you're playing the Radzard for the fire energy to be able to attach to it and stuff, where you're playing like the Fluttermane for early game disruption. Of course, you have Iono and Judge and Eries, and Grabbers and Technical Machine De-Evolution, and stuff like that to really just make it a little bit difficult for your opponent. So very cool to see like an Arceus control deck showing up. We got our Charizard here. We got our first Chen Pao deck here. Pretty cookie cutter it seems. Playing the 2/2 lineup Bidoof and Barrel. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about if 3/3 is better than 2/2. I'm not too sure. I also will say I don't like Silene in this deck. It feels so bad. I would just rather, like, I understand playing Silene because you want to be able to maybe put superior energy retrievals back in to your deck, especially if they get Eerie out of your hand. So I totally get why you want to play Silene. Just sometimes it feels so bad when you're like, all right, Silene, and I need to hit at least one of these, or sometimes both, and you whiff, and it doesn't feel as good. I've also been seeing a lot of people play double lightning energy lately in Chen Pao as well. For the longest time, it was just, you know, like 8 water or 9 water and 1 lightning. But I definitely like the double lightning here to be able to put that to your Iron Hands to make sure that you can also put yourself in a position where you can just arm press if you need to. You know, if you need to arm press to be able to take a KO on something feels really good, especially because if you end up using Ampy very much on a Lugia V-Star and doesn't have any damage on it already, you're only doing 240. You're not KOing it. So having the ability to be able to use arm press feels really good, I feel like, as well. So very nice to see Chen Pao coming up there. That price tag is getting up there, huh? The $108. That Iron Hands is really doing it, and the Prime Catcher as well. Let's see what else we got here. Got another Lugia, another ZARD, another Pao. We got our Pidgeot Control here showing up. We got the Noivern going on. We got a Chi-Yu, the Tempting Trap. We got the Bouffalon for the Lost Headbutt. We got the Mimikyu, the Luxray. So a lot of one-ofs going on here. We got Team Yellow's Cheer, which I like a lot in the deck. I kind of would want to go to 2 Misfortune Sisters. I also like the fact that people are still playing Roseanne's backup again, because this card is just so good. Being able to choose one of all these, being able to be like, all right, put a Pokemon back, and a tool, and a stadium, and an energy, just feels really good to be able to put all these things back into your deck, especially because you can put Hero's Cape back into your deck now, which feels incredible. So if you end up having Hero's Cape on, like, I don't know, your Mawile or your Bouffalon, it gets KO'd, you can just be like, all right, Roseanne's backup, put it back in. Like, that feels incredible to me. 2 Fire Energy also makes sense for the Chi-Yu. You're usually only using this to use the Jealousy Singe to start milling, or to start taking prize cards with Rad Zard if you need to. I like the 1 copy of Mist Energy as well. So very nice to see Control still doing well. Control is one of those decks that just, it's a lot to pilot, and you gotta know what you're doing. We got an Asprotha deck here. Now I will say, Asprotha has been showing up in our format. We had 8 total Asprotha decks in day 2, and I think people are slipping on this deck. I think this deck has potential. It takes some pretty good matchups. You don't really have a lot of bad matchups. So pretty cool here. Definitely enjoying seeing Asprotha. It's kind of one of my, I guess, like, secret pleasure decks that I've kind of been playing a little bit on the side when I'm, like, not making YouTube content, or I'm not, you know, trying to test for Indianapolis or anything. Asprotha is kind of one of those decks where I'm like, you know, I'm going to jam 3 or 4 games with this and just play with it. Why not? Because it's fun. And it feels really good, too, just be like, all right, Clairvoyant Sense twice, and then be able to, like, draw a bunch of cards. It reminds me a lot of Gardevoir in that way, and just kind of being able to really punish your opponent with the ability Dazzling Gaze, and then, of course, Psyball is a pretty decent attack as well. So, really cool to see Asprotha really making it here and showing up. I kind of like the Hero's Cape in here, though. Hero's Cape kind of actually cool. I would have never thought to put Hero's Cape in there, but it does make sense having the Hero's Cape in the deck to be able to put it onto your Asprotha or something, or your Banette to get to 350 or to 360, making it a pretty bulky Pokemon to deal with. So, Asprotha here. Got Ancient Box showing up as well. I wasn't too sure how many Ancient Box made it into day 2. I will say I know all too much, and I'm all too familiar with what it feels like to play Cobalion in your deck, because when I played Single Strike Lugia and Charizard first kind of hit the scene, this was the only way that Single Strike Lugia could deal with Charizard, because of the ability Justified Law. Your basic Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Dark-type Pokemon, making it so you can get to those 330 HP points a little bit quicker. So, definitely pretty cool to see people using Cobalion to deal with Charizard. It's unfortunate that we have to use Cobalion to deal with Charizard, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to work your way around in the meta here. So pretty cool seeing an Ancient Box showing up. I like the Flutter main 4 copies. Hexcrawl I think is a really cool attack. Got another Roaring Moon, the Dunsparce. We got a Snorlax Stall here, which is actually just the straight up stall deck. Not the control type variant, just actually trying to actively use the Snorlax ability block, making it so your opponent's active Pokemon cannot retreat. Playing 3 copies of Crushing Hammer in here, Temple of Sinnoh, so really just, I'm going to discard your energies, I'm going to slowly mill you out of the game, I'm going to Misfortune Sisters you, and I'm going to de-evolution, I'm going to make your life as miserable as I possibly can, and just try to slowly mill you that way. So really cool to see a stall deck making it up here. I like the fact that we have a control variant and a stall variant, and they both play similar but also very different in a lot of ways, which I think is really cool as well. Another Esprotha deck, another Lostina deck here, another Lugia deck. I don't think this one's any too different. Yep, this one's playing the 17 energy, like I had said. This one's opting to play, instead of the 4th DTE, they're playing the 3rd Mist energy here. Definitely makes a lot of sense. We got an Arc Armor Rouge deck showing up. I still have yet to try this deck out, and I really got to make time to try it out. Arc Armor Rouge. I will say, Gouging Fire is kind of one of those cards where I feel like this is one of the first things you could cut out of the deck, but at the same time, it feels really good as well. Being able to have that Gouging Fire hit for 260, put the maximum belt on, get to the 310, and then do like KO something pretty big, like a Gardevoir or something, feels really nice. However, you're still kind of short from the Charizard, which feels really bad, but that's okay. So really cool to see Arc Firebox or Arc Armor Rouge showing up here. We're calling it, okay, Arceus Armor Rouge, so Arc Armor Rouge. Got another Charizard deck. I wonder if this one's playing, okay, so this one's playing Prime Catcher here. So it's definitely either, like, are you playing Prime Catcher or are you playing Hero's Cape? Do you want to be bulky or do you want to have the Pivot Disruption 11 here? Another Esprotha deck, another Gardevoir deck here. I want to check this one out. This one opting to play the Buddy Catch Gallade and the double Drifloon, so a little bit different than the one we had seen in top 8 here. I like the Buddy Catch Gallade in the deck. I think Buddy Catch Gallade is a really underrated card, and I think it has a lot of potential for certain things as well. Got our first Dialga deck here in day 2. Pretty cookie cutter, nothing too crazy, just trying to hit energies off that Metal Maker, find the Jacques, get everything evolved as fast as you can, have the Zamazenta there for the backup attacker that you might need, having the Mew for the draw, or for the genome hacking if you need it as well. Especially because Metal Maker says, once during your turn, you may look at the top 4 and put any number of basic metal energy you find there to your Pokemon. So it doesn't have to be to a metal type Pokemon, it could just be to your Mew or anything like that. Something I would like to maybe see this deck kind of play is like a 1 copy of Metagross. I think just sometimes maybe having that extra just single prize attacker could do some good. I don't really know what you'd cut though. This deck's kind of already figured out and solved. Maybe cut like a Great Ball for it, but then you lack a little bit of consistency, so I'm not too sure. But really cool to see Dialga making it up here again. Another Charizard. We got our first Future Hands deck here. Future Hands not really showing up too much here in the more recent regionals, but still a pretty solid deck if you ask me. Being able to just really prey on Lost Box decks and Lugia decks, being able to peak acceleration really early for some extra damage, 40 damage base, but then Iron Crowns make it do more damage, Future Booster Energy Capsule makes it do more damage, then you got the Iron Hands in there for the Ampy very much to do more damage, take extra prize cards. The Iron Bundle I think is really good as well for, like I said, into things like Charizard where you could just pull something up, you know, refrigerated stream over and over and over again feels really good, or just having that Hyper Blower for that little bit more disruption as well. I would like to see maybe 1 or 2 copies of Water Energy make its way in here, so you could have the option to attack with Iron Bundle, because I think Iron Bundle is a really good attacker, and I think it's an underrated Pokemon as an attacker as well. Got another Pitch-Out Control here, another Esprotha deck. We got our first Lost Sablezard deck showing up here. I like the Entei in the deck. I like the Iron Bundle. Just play a copy of a Water Energy. It's worth it. I'm telling you, it really is. Crisis Punch as well, making its way in here. I think Crisis Punch is one of those just like cool tech cards where if you're not ready for it, if your opponent isn't playing around Crisis Punch, you can really punish them for it. Being able to be like, all right, Cramorant, you're at 4, Crisis Punch, 280. Boom. If you're not playing around the Crisis Punch and you're playing against someone who is playing Crisis Punch, you might get punished for it, and it might feel really bad. So pretty cool to see Lost Sablezard here. You got another Dialga deck, got tons of Charizard. Our first Miraidon deck, a deck that everyone thought was dead, but this deck's still showing up here. We got double Mew EX, 2 Iron Hands, 2 Miraidon, Raichu, Squawkabilly, Zapdos in the Raikou V. So kind of going back to that turbo variant, trying to hit energies off the generators, playing Energy Sticker, and just trying really hard to just attach return, hit Jennies. Even if you have to use Motivate for a turn, that's okay. You know, Motivate, attach 2 basic energies when you're just gonna probably one of your bench Pokemon. Sometimes it's what you gotta do. So really cool here. I was telling everybody that Energy Sticker is a card that Miraidon's probably gonna have to play if it wants to stay somewhat relevant, and it's playing 4 copies. Flip a coin of heads, attach a basic basic energy card from just gonna probably one of your bench Pokemon. It's not a great card, but it's not a bad card, and it's one of those cards where you lost Flaffy. Welcome to the train of flipping coins for things. Capturing Aroma, flip a coin. Energy Sticker, flip a coin. Pokemon Catcher, flip a coin. I am here for it. So pretty cool seeing Miraidon here. 2 more Esprotha decks in our Lugia. A couple more Lost Box here. Some more Future Hands. Arctina. A Meowscarada. I did not know this deck made it into day 2, but I am here. Let's take a look. We got the 4-1-3, we got a 2-1-2, so we're putting a Pidgeotto in this. I really wish the Pidgeotto had like 100 HP or something, but I guess if you give it 100 HP and free retreat, that's a little broken. So I guess 80 HP makes sense. Playing the 1-1 line of Bidoof and Babero, Rotom, Radon, Kazam, to be able to move damage counters around. Got a Mawile here, got a Thornton in there. I like how you have the Technical Machine Evolution and De-Evolution in the deck as well. Got the Forest Seal Stone to be able to attach to the Rotom to find whatever card you want. You got the DTE to be able to attach to these. You got the Grass Energies if you need them to as well. Something else you can play in this deck. It feels a little bad because like right now, like his name's definitely the Radiant Pokemon you want to play. But you could play Radiant Greninja if you feel like your draw engine's a little bad. But that's why you're playing the Pidgeot and the Babero, so maybe not. So pretty cool here. Being able to discard a Grass Energy to may put 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So pretty cool seeing Meowscarada making the day 2, coming in 78th place. Really, really neat. We got Raging Bolt Sandy Shocks here, making it into day 2 as well. Got the 3-3 there. You got 1 copy of Slitherwing. I like this card a lot, actually. Its second attack is not great, but I like it because you can actually like slowly mill your opponent if they end up kind of misplaying a little bit. Or if you're into a matchup where you're playing against like Stall or something, you can just kind of put this on there and then just start milling them on top of that, especially if you get to the end of the game and they haven't quite milled you yet, and you can just, and they're like kind of at a point where they're starting to use Pidgeotto V or whatever, Pidgeot V, and then you can just start milling them back, which feels pretty cool. So Raging Bolt Sandy Shocks making its way in here. Raging Bolt Sandy Shocks kind of showing that it's probably the best way to play it. I don't know, it's kind of tough because you have like the Lost Box Raging Bolt, you got the Raging Bolt with Gardevoir, so there's both ways to play this here. Got another Ancient Box there. You got a Future Hands, a Moon Dune, or the Dunsparce, or whatever you want to call the deck. Another Stall, got an Arctina, another Future Hands, another Gardevoir. Tons and tons of Charizards. I want to see if people are still playing. Okay, so people are playing down here are playing Prime Catcher. So kind of just Prime Catcher seems to be the go-to copy, but Hero's Cape also definitely making sense as well. Is this person even playing? Okay, this person's actually playing Maximum Belt in theirs. So really trying to go for the aggression early on, trying to just take KOs quick and efficiently, playing the Lumineon as well in the deck. Are you playing Turos actually? Yeah, so you are playing 1 copy of Turo, so that's good. So you can pick up the Lumineon or anything if you need to. Tons more Charizard, another Lost Tina, another Chien-Pao, another Chien-Pao. This one's playing the 1 copy of Lightning and the 8 Water, so this is kind of the cookie cutter one we've been seeing a lot more lately. Playing the middle Arctrabax, Chien-Pao, or the middle line for the Baxcalibur as well in Chien-Pao. Something that you can do if you are worried about Technical Machine De-Evolution a little bit. Just playing that Arctrabax, so you're not too worried about it. You got another Esprotha deck down here. I'm glad to see Esprotha making it in and doing well in day 2. Got a Roaring Moon deck. Now this one is not the Roaring Moon to Dunsparce. This one is just kind of the 4 copy of Roaring Moon EX, 2 Baby Moons, and things like that. So kind of the new Turbo Moon type deck that we had before. Not as consistent and as good because you do lose that Galarian Moltres, which feels kind of bad. However, this is kind of the new way to do that here. I want to take a look at the statistics real quick before we head out to that outro, just to kind of see how many count of each decks were in day 2. So we had 32 Charizard making up about 27% of the meta. You got 10 Chien-Pao, about 8%, or a little less than 8.5%. You got Arceus variants. Now, this is counting, I believe, all the Arceus variants. So this is like Arctina, the Arc Control deck. I think this is how that is getting calculated. So we got 8 of those, just about 7%. 8 Lugia decks, about a 7% as well. 8 Asprotha decks, so about another 7%. And then Future, which is another 8 as well. So, okay, yeah, so this one's counting all. I didn't know you could hover over this. So you got 5 Arctina, 2 Arc Armarouge, 1 Arceus Control, 8 Arcea, or 8 Lugia, 8 Asprotha, 8 Future Iron Hands, about 7%. Lost Box, this is counting the 1 Sable Zard and the other Lost Zone Toolbox, about 6%. This is counting the Dunsparce and the Roaring Moon, so 6% here. Giratina Lost Box, so about 5%. Got Ancient Box, about 5%. Gardevoir, 5 counts that, so about 4%. 3 Stall decks. I'm glad they separate the Stall and the Pidgeot Control because they are very different, about 3%. And then Pidgeot Control, about 3%. Dialga, 3 of those, about 3%. 2 Miraidons, so a crisp 1.5%, 2%. And then we got 1 Meowscarada and 1 Raging Bolt, making up about 1% of the meta. So really cool here. The amount of cards that we've seen, just purely a lot of Charizard, a lot of Prime Catchers, kind of makes the most sense to me. So pretty cool. I'm really glad to see that it's a little bit more variety. Yes, sure, Charizard is kind of the front runner of this, but you have all these other decks below it. Sure, you only got 10 counts and 8 counts, but they're still showing up and still performing well, and I love to see that. Alrighty, let's jump right in to that outro. Alrighty, that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know down in the comments below what deck you guys would have played had you gone to Sao Paulo Regionals. I probably would have either played Arctina or Lugia myself. Those are kind of just the 2 decks that have been kind of front running for me. Maybe a little Asprotha on the side, not too sure. But if you guys have enjoyed the content I've been making for fun on the channel, don't forget to leave a like, smash the subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!